Hi, my name is Kamal, and um, my topic is essentially ERP system for BSA Environmental Services. So about BSA, we're a company that's approximately about 17 people. We do macro and micro invertebrate analysis, which means that we look at things that are in water. Things such as the one that's kind of blue in the picture, it's called a diatom. It's specifically the circular thing is called a cyclotella. The one right next to it is called a Dicyclops thomsi, and the one at the bottom of it is called Clostridiopsis. So these are all parts of lakes and rivers and fisheries. And what our customers do is they send us water samples for us to analyze, and we charge the customers per bottle. Not sure about the how much we actually charge because I'm not in charge of all that. But we ID the living organisms in there. We measure them, and we tell them how many they could find in the bottle. And we send the data along to our customers after we do all this stuff. So the objective for an ERP system implementation at BSA is to decrease the lack of transparency regarding the different projects we have. Projects are, like I was describing earlier, the contracts we get the from one individual. We call that project. And the big deal is that due dates and then the information that the client actually wants are different. Some clients want us to count up to like 400 organisms in the bottle and then take that and then use a formula to account for the whole bottle. So you're essentially using a percentage of the samples in the whole bottle to estimate what the rest of the bottle is probably like. And the ERP system would also let us create a central node of information for our employees to access regarding project information. Financial information does not need to be shared, but project information does, just because it is very vital to us to know what the different aspects of the project are. So, what are the business requirements for us to look for in an ERP system? Well, the biggest is project and workflow tracking, and that's essentially to avoid delays. And since there are multiple projects slash contracts that happen at the same time, and they have different deadlines, so some customers could want some of their samples that they sent to be analyzed, while others could want the whole. So you have to work around all that. And deadline tracking is one of the biggest requirements because last year ran into a situation where we had like 600 samples left with a month for the deadline, and so we don't run into problems like that again. And workflow tracking is how basically a sample goes from the analyst to the data collection. About three people input data into our system. We use Excel right now, and so with workflow tracking, you could so analysts could essentially say, "I'm doing this sample," and then once they're done, they could click, "Oh, done," and then it's being forwarded to data collection. It would just make the business a lot smoother. Data sharing is a big thing because we share with customers as well as all the analysts the data that is being inputted. And right now, it's a lot of Excel files, a jumbled mess. And customer management, which is a big thing because if we can see that certain samples are going to data or they're being prepared or being done, then so should the customers. So that way, it would allow us transparency in project deliverables, and we could all employees could communicate, and vendor to us communication would be really easier. And financial management, the system should allow to project financial management, financial activity, which also means that we would also have for projection to work. We'd also have to the system would have to look at current government trends because a lot of funding for sciences is from the government, and if they're being cut as like they are right now, then the finances are going to go down for the next couple of years. So it has to keep track of that. And security, which is provide backup as well as protection for all user and data and make sure it's never lost. So the couple of ERP systems that were looked at uh, for this project was Microsoft 365, Business Central, Oracle, and SAP. Microsoft allows for deep integration with Excel and all their programs. It has good cloud solutions and it's good for project finance and operation, which means that Microsoft would be able to look at ups and downs and give us good projections. And Oracle NetSuite is higher cost. It's complex for smaller firms, and it requires more consulting. And SAP is just less flexible for rapid changes. And where we are, sometimes contracts get canceled, and a lot of stuff happens. Sometimes the samples get lost in transport, so everything has to be taken in account for. Out of the three, the best solution was Microsoft 365 Business Central due to the cost and its connectivity to the whole Microsoft system, which is very ingrained in our system, in our business already. So let's discuss the cost of the software, which is Microsoft 365 Business Central. It's 70 per user per month, which means $70 times 12 months, 14,280 per year. Training would roughly cost 25 so on an average of $25 per hour pay for 17 people and roughly maybe 2 days, because not everyone needs to know the different aspects. They just have to know the aspect that of the system that they're going to use, since especially it's a small firm. So, and that comes to around 6,400. Consulting, according to internet data, which is really hard to get like specific numbers for these, because small labs like us, we don't really publish data like that, especially financial data. But 150 to 175 for consulting, and that's in the minimum. Let's say 150, and that's about 2 days, which would be 2,400, and let's say four consultants, 9,600. And then so the big chunk is also on data migration. Now this could be a safety estimate, honestly, but we have years of data, and to migrate that into a new ERP system would take a lot of time. So with three people do data, so 3,000 to maybe 9,000 of like time they spent doing data migration as opposed to like actual work. So total cost, especially the first year, would be from anywhere from 33,000 to 40,000. So the benefits. So there is always, since everybody needs like to use data and somebody needs to check the data after data inputs. Let's say on average that an employee wastes about 4 hours per week with the current system. So with 17 employees times 4 hours a week, that's 68 hours a week on an average pay of $25 per hour. Now this is not accurate, just a number being thrown out there, which equals to 1,700 per week, and in a year you could save up to 88,400. Now let's say that the system, instead of getting rid of all 4 hours, uh it just maybe makes half the amount of hours wasted per week per employee to 2 hours instead of four. That would still save the company 44,200 in um in money that the employee is not doing work for, essentially. These are my sources. The websites used. It's really hard to find peer reviewed articles, so a bunch of random websites had to be used.